Between 2023 and 2025, Jane Street allegedly manipulated the Indian stock market by buying calls before pumping a stock in the morning, and then buying puts before selling it all in the afternoon. This was an ingenious, sneaky way to make money, and I'll explain how and why it worked in a bit, but this story isn't about why they made money. It's about why they threw away this absolute cash geyser by publicly suing Millennium Management for copying it, releasing their secret trading strategy into the public.
So they sue Millennium for stealing their secrets. Now this turns out to possibly be one of the dumbest and most expensive lawsuits ever done.
Jane Street Group is a relatively small trading firm in New York with 2,600 employees over 6 offices. Their whole thing is that they get the absolute smartest people on earth in finance and business, they put them in front of a computer, give them a bunch of money, and tell them to turn it into more money. To give you an idea of the kind of talent Jane Street is looking for, the starting salary for an intern quant is as high as $258,000, which is more than the chair of the Federal Reserve makes. In late 2022, Jane Street noticed something unique about the Indian stock market. People bought far more calls and puts, essentially betting on the movement of a stock's price, than they bought stocks. Essentially, there were lots of people betting on the movement of a number whose value was determined by a few people. This wasn't a small difference either. At its peak, the Indian options market was 422 times as valuable as its stock market, that compared to the US's ratio of 9. Okay, so why are Indians so interested in options? Well, the reasons are complex, but come down to a few unique things about India's cultural and financial circumstances. India has a high wealth inequality, with a median annual income of $339, despite having a GDP per capita of $2,480. This means a huge share of India's $3.5 trillion GDP is concentrated among the ultra-wealthy, much like the United States. Gambling is frowned upon, but people still want a way to try to get rich quick to make a better life for their families. Recently, Indian social media has been rife with influencers talking about 10 or 100xing a small investment in the options market, which is far more than you can get in returns from the stock market, while being much more risky. Options are a market with the psychological appeal of gambling, but without the social stigma. This combined with their absolutely massive population led to the largest options market in the world. Anyway, back to Jane Street. Buy calls, pump the stock, buy puts, sell the stock, screw over poor people, make tons of money. Sounds great. But Jane Street had a problem. Another investment firm, Millennium Management, was headhunting their employees by hiring them for massive salaries. This was fine on its own. Jane Street wanted the best of the best, and they knew those people would want the opportunity to hop careers to move up a tax bracket. The problem was that these employees were using Jane Street's secret Indian trading technique at Millennium, driving up the cost of the options Jane Street was buying. This happened because life as a quant is extremely competitive, and you have to constantly ensure you're making as much money as possible, or someone with better returns may just take your job. Jane Street, after realizing that they were being defrauded, made the inexplicable decision to sue Millennium Management. This may seem counterintuitive at first, since all court filings would be publicly available, allowing anyone to see Jane Street's description of their technique, which would be needed to litigate. Once everyone knew about it, the technique would be worthless. Think about this situation from Jane Street's point of view for a second. You know that your quants will be hopping firms all the time, and you know that they'll want to use your strategies to stay ahead. You have this amazing money printing technique in India, but it just got stolen by a rival firm. You could either keep your mouth shut and continue to make less money, or you could sue, make no money off this technique, but send the message that if your techniques are stolen, you are willing to take action. Jane Street was planning for the long term. They couldn't make any money off of this technique anymore, but they had ensured that they could keep their private strategies private in the future. Not only did they show rival firms that they couldn't steal their techniques and get away with it, but they also showed any possible future job hoppers that they would get exposed and fired unless they kept their mouth shut. I hope you enjoyed this video. These take a long time to make, so subscribe if you enjoyed. I'll see you later.